Welcome to Live Unashamed, where we pause the show and invite members of our team to talk vulnerably about their own recovery, things they're learning, the resources that are actually working, and what it truly means to live unashamed.
Hello, Chris.
Sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me.
Why am I feeling
Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things.
He's like, I'm just going to stare at the floor.
Salt and pepper, Chris. You remember that?
Absolutely.
But not Sam here. Young
I've
gun
heard
has no
about
idea
it.
where. No, Sam's
That's
freaking
why he's
friends are
untouchable.
wearing a salt and pepper T-shirt that got printed not retro, but 2 years ago. But they act
You
like
call
it's
me
retro.
fake, Steve?
No, I'm talking about all the kids these days.
The kids, and I'm one of the kids these
Yes,
days.
that are into the retro.
You're so good at
things
shaming
that aren't-
people and
that
then
aren't
acting like you
retro.
don't shame them.
Oh no, I was shaming.
That's
you.
called gaslighting.
I was shaming a whole generation. No gaslight.
Oh,
But the nostalgia of the retro things coming back does feel good. Fun to talk about.
Yeah.
But what's not fun to talk about with your friends?
oh,
At least initially.
sex, porn addiction.
Porn addiction.
Yeah.
So how do you have that conversation? Because when we talk about the talk, we're not talking about talking to kids. We're not talking about like, hey, Johnny, you're now 10 and we're going to talk about it, right? Or Susie or whatever, right? That's not what we're talking. We're talking about how do I, as I get active in recovery, talk to other people about it?
Well, I don't tell anybody about my story.
Well, but go back. But go back to early stages for you, because there actually is a version of Chris that wouldn't tell anyone about his story.
Yeah, because
would.
I was in hiding, and that's why I didn't want to talk to anybody about it.
Amen. And things that we struggle with. So I guess my question initially is the fear. What's the fear?
That they're not going to love me. They're just going to be like, who is this guy? Like, what? Even back when I was doing it, I thought it was because people were going to be like, oh, there's a stigma of
Yes.
that he's a child molester because he looks at porn. No.
And I would argue there's still some stigma that if you're looking at porn between child molester, sex trafficker, and just you're having affairs and doing all the crazy stuff, and I'm looking at softcore porn once a week. We don't have a real description between. We just kind of lump everyone in the category. So that
Right.
fear of shame for you. What's the fear when you're sharing your story? What were you afraid of when you're telling people about when you're having and we're talking with the friends and the.
Yeah, I kind of feel like fear for me. I mean, I didn't want people to know all those things about me and reject them. That would be, to me, that would
Reject
be
you.
Yeah, to reject me, right? Notice how I said reject me, not reject the thing, right? Because, I mean, we all know that porn is
Well
bad,
said.
right?
Well
But
said.
it's not about, I was worried that I would be fully known by someone and that they would reject me as someone who has participated in that. That would have been hard.
But why is this different than all the things we don't want to tell people, but we do?
See, and I think mine was different. Mine wasn't, I don't think I was necessarily scared that they were going to reject me. I was just scared that anybody's going to find out about it. Because I didn't want to ever get back to Autumn. I didn't want it to come out to anybody because I was like, nope, I don't want anybody to know that this is
Because
what
who
I'm
are they
doing.
going to tell?
Yeah,
Like, can they hold my
right.
confidence or my trust? Yeah, and I think too, with what you're saying, Sam, I here's one thing that I think is different. I'm gonna, for the sake of not going to victimhood, I'm gonna label different here.
Uh-huh.
Is when I tell someone, hey, you know what? When I was in high school, I cheated on papers all the time. Super dyslexic, and would show up to Dr. T's drama class, and I don't remember her name. She brought the notes for science. I brought the notes for math. And then we just switched homeworks, copy paste job, and you're on your way, right? That is not attached super deep in my identity place.
Totally.
Like cheating in schools, maybe closer to the surface.
Some people might be, but not. I wasn't. I was like that. It
In
wasn't attached to my
general,
identity.
I would argue it's tough to get more intimate and close to your identity than your sexuality. I would argue
right.
that reasonably strong.
Yeah.
Tell me what about you feels more intimate and intertwined with your identity than your sexuality. It's pretty close to the center. It's pretty
right.
close to, the soft, chewy center of your soul and who you are.
And add to that there's the
culturally, there has been stigma around that topic for a long time. Things are changing now a little bit. I think those two factors combined, that makes it highly, highly personal. I like this quote. The last name's Keller. I don't know the first name, but
Helen.
what's that? No, it wasn't Helen.
She's a real hero, Chris.
No, it wasn't. But she said, to be loved but not known is comforting but superficial. But to be known and not loved is our greatest fear.
Yeah.
And then to be fully known and to be fully loved is a lot like heaven, right? So, but there's something about that. If I'm going to actually open up to people and not be accepted in that, there's pain. That's deep, deep pain.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because it's deep because your sexuality is so deep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. No, agree 100%. So, all right. So it's hard. Yep. There's some whys. So how do you do it then? So instead of all of us rolling over and be like, well, that sucks. Because I will say, Chris, for us who are very public about our story, what people don't know about this is we've had people come on here all the time. It is different.
Totally.
Me saying this in the podcast right now, because here's the deal. If you run into this podcast and hear it somewhere, you're probably in recovery or know someone. And then I can kind of come off as a poser hero type deal where I'm like, oh, well, yeah, but I wrote a podcast and blah, blah, right. And do that thing where if you're just friends with me, if you're just a coworker, I'll be honest, I think that's a more vulnerable disclosure. And I'm not saying that to be weird about it. I actually think there's a vulnerability, and we see it when people come on the show and share their story. They're like, the whole world's going to know. And I'm like, yeah, but now having done this for almost a decade, you know who's not going to know? Your coworkers and your mom. I know you think they will because it's like out public on the internet, but I'm like, you know how much crap's on the internet? Like, I don't know a lot of people that, I'll just say this. In the years we have been recording stories, I have not once gotten the email back from anyone who's come on the show, not one time, and said, hey, you know what? I shared, my brother-in-law saw it and shamed me, and now I'm not invited to the family Christmas party because they think I'm a child molester. And guys, can you take my episode down? I wish I hadn't have done this. Actually, I've never had that happen in all the episodes we've shared.
Wow.
And people who have spoken up in their church because they're like, yeah, brothers, unashamed. I got up in front of my congregation. I was like, I look at porn. Let's get real about it. Mic drop and sat down. Right. Now, there's people who are ashamed and don't want to talk about it and shut it down. But I'm just, what we're doing is great. It's vulnerable. I'm not, we've got some haters before and that's hurtful and all this stuff.
But it's easy to hide behind the mic.
Yeah. There's a persona here that isn't, where that's really different when you're willing to show with your coworkers. Right. So in that conversation, how do you do that? What's the important thing to do?
For me, and something that has helped me and even something that I tell all my clients is really just go to God with who needs to hear your story. Because not everybody has earned the right to hear your story. So we got to make sure that you're just not like putting it out there for everybody to hear when they don't even deserve to hear it. I mean, I know my story is different and I've done that, but that's not for everybody. So you got to know and ask God, show me who I need to share my story with.
Well, yeah, because it's not always going to go. I always share the story about my one friend from my mission. I can take you to the restaurant and the table, and then we quit being friends after because I shared, and he was like, I'm not getting that vulnerable piece, brother. Now, he didn't like shame me and trash me, but did it affect our friendship? It did. It ended it. Not because I ended our friendship. And I'm not holding a bunch of hate. He's uncomfortable and just wasn't ready. But yeah, so praying, God, inspire me who to share it with.
So what are some of those principles surrounding that kind of guide you and who to share it with and who not to? Well, obviously, there's safety. I think that's the number one, right? Does it feel
Totally.
right?
And I think...
But that's a fair question because praying about it is the faith walk. God, right. I think Sam's a good person to share it with.
Yeah.
But then how do you do that?
For me, anytime that I've been able to share it with somebody, even though I've shared it with everybody, there's still people that haven't heard the story. And there's specific people when I'm talking to them, I'm like, yeah, they don't need to hear my story, or maybe they just need to hear a little bit. And so I just go with God with what I need to share and who I need to share it to. And I think he just guides me in those conversations and how I bring it up, or maybe they bring up something that I'm like, you know what? Sounds like they struggled with the same thing that I did, or they are. And so I'm like, they've got some same language around.
Yeah. Well,
porn
Lecrae
and-
talks about this in his first book, which is a great book, by the way. Unashamed, go read it. But he says, talking about being molested as a kid, and he's like, I feel like then you went out on the playground and you kind of just knew, just like the way people talked and the way they were.
Yeah.
You were like, oh, this happened
Yes.
to you too, right? And you kind of knew how,
Right.
like there was
that
this
happens to me all the time. I'm like, yeah, this guy also looks at porn. I can tell by the way he's acting that like, I can kind of just tell, you know?
So one, there's
Yep.
some tells. So know where you're at. But also some of the best. So one of the champions in my recovery is Kurt Frankham. Shout out Leading Saints. And Kurt will tell you we're his favorite podcast. No, and he's like not a guy in recovery. He's not on the recovery walk at all. But he's like, it is just so inspiring, and I feel so connected. And so to be loved by someone who's not like, I get it, bro, I'm in the trench. Like the people who generally have been shaming in my life, to have one of those people be like, and I love you totally. So it doesn't have to necessarily be someone else. Disclaimer, just it's great when you can recognize it. It doesn't have to be. But I also will say, because I say this all the time, honesty's a spectrum. So I can tell you my name is Steven, or I can tell you my name is Steven Weston Shields, and the nickname Kayla has for me is Rapper Boy because I met when we were freestyle rapping. Right? So you don't have to start with the level 10 truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't walk up to people and I'm like, I was stealing money from my family business hiring prostitutes while being an ordinance worker in the temple. I wanted to tell you about my journey. No, you can start with, hey, I've had some struggles with my life around my sexuality. I've had some struggles with sexual sin. I've had some struggles with porn. And then right, because if I'm on that honesty spectrum at a 1 to a 2, I can start to suss out and feel, hey, is this person going to be someone who's safe for me?
Yeah. Well, tell me what you guys think about this. One thing that feels safer to me when I'm talking about my story is I open about, and I'm deep enough into my recovery now that I understand the reasons why I got addicted to porn. It makes perfect sense to me, and I actually feel like I have a lot of self-compassion for myself because I'm like, wow, my childhood was so hard. Of course, when I saw this stuff, I got hooked immediately.
Right.
I think that opening up a little,
because your brain gets rewired.
Right. And so opening up about a little bit of, obviously, trauma dumping's never helpful, but like, I think that if you open up about some of the things that you've been through and some of the things that set stage for that addiction to occur, I think that it can kind of help people get on board with you and help people understand like, hey, yeah, that makes sense to me too.
Yeah.
So that's what's been helpful for me.
Well, and I think it's helpful too, along with that is what are you wanting from them? Because if I'm walking into a conversation and I'm like, hey, I'm going to tell Sam about my stuff, but I have no idea what I want from Sam or what I want out of this engagement, like it's a little bit hard to direct that conversation, right? Because if I get, hey, Sam, let me, boom, drop this bomb on you. And he's like, bro, what do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. I just want to say it out loud. He's like, okay, right? Like, what is he supposed to do with that, right? And so I think also to share and be like, hey, I was hoping, I'm looking for people to walk with me in recovery, or I'm looking for a listen. Because I had, shout out to my boy, Aaron Hadfield. He was a bishop for me and super helpful. And he just said, Steve, I will never get it. This is not my walk, hasn't been my walk. I don't get it, but I can listen. So he kind of said like, this is how I can show up. And I'm like, that's going to work for me. So I'd just sit down and I would just talk and talk and talk. I know that's hard for you guys to believe, but I would just sit down.
Never talks.
And then he would just ask me, I'd be like, cause this is early recovery for me. So this is early for me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, dude, did you know it's like a cycle? And he's like, no, man, tell me about that. And so just listening. And that was such a powerful de-shaming experience because he had a testimony of Jesus. He believed God healed and he knew nothing. He will tell you, he'd tell you now, he'll say, Steve, you're the one who taught me about recovery. I didn't know anything. And then we went on our walk together in the church and now I know things. And for me, just have him listening. So I also think when you're saying that prayer with God, what are you wanting from someone? Instead of just like, who do I share with just to vomit it out there to your point, like the trauma, who do you want to share? So here's where I'm going to go because we're running out of time and I want to be living the unashamed, as we say. And so that's how they say it in South Provo. Shout out to Corey Emmett down there in the AZ. Okay,
living
so
the unashamed.
here's what I want to know. What, and I'll answer for myself too. But what do you guys need in your personal life? Not the hiding behind the mic stuff or hiding
Right.
behind the you're a coach, I'm a therapist crap. None of that. What is it that you need in your life? Is it someone listening? Is it someone who says, hey, I've been there too, and is on the walk with you? Someone who can mentor? What is it that you need right now in your personal life? What is it that you need from someone that you're not getting right now?
Yeah. But for me, if I were to open up to someone, I would want them to say something along the lines, because this would provide the safety and the what I needed. That sounds like it's been really hard for you. That's a simple one, right? But to provide safety like that, and then reassurance, hey, I believe in you. My particular wounds have to do a lot with feeling like I'm not competent enough and I don't have enough control in my life to really make meaningful change.
Mm. Well, I'll go next because that one resonates with me. I mean, the compassion always, so I'm with you on that. But also, I feel like what I really could use some more of is just jumping in the like, I believe in you. Like the gas, you know, the not the like, well, have you looked at these 3 things, or have you thought about this, or here's where you're gamed. Like I don't need another trainer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or a mentor. Or I think just someone willing to put the gas on. For, as you said, that's kind of I was formulating. As you said, that hit for me too. What about you, Mr. Chris?
I think for me is someone just to hold the space for me. Whatever that is, whatever I'm talking to them about, or what, I don't need advice from them. I just need them to just hold that space for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the challenge I'm going to put out to everyone listening and watching. Sorry, in the laughter, in the getting choked up. Well, that to be honest, that one is tender for me of having some more gas. So the challenge I'm going to put out to, for everyone listening and watching, and to the 3 of us is what you said at the beginning of the episode, Chris, is for all of us to ask God who can be that person and how can I help me identify that person and then share my story with them in a way that I can have that experience and connection. Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
So let us know. Send us an email if you reach out and have that conversation with someone. If that someone's us, we'd love to have it with you. So send us an email and follow us on social media at Unashamed Unafraid. If you're in need of scholarship, want to donate, help us with the movement, unashamedunafraid.com. Give us 5 stars, iTunes, Spotify, everywhere you're listening so the world can find more of the hopeful message. And until we can meet together again, we hope you take this invitation to reach out to someone and have that conversation and continue to be unashamed.